Hello everyone, this is Arrow, and welcome back to Sundown Moon Up Podfics. Today we'll be continuing Fic Bullies by RandomWeirdCat. Chapter 16. Summary. All Might is about to fuck everything up. Toshinori falls to the ground with a couple other heroes. "What the fuck is that?" Hitoshi yells. Toshinori rushes forward and grabs Midnight and pulls her, and they both watch as the ceiling crumble around them. "Whoa!" Hitoshi falls back and ducks under the table. The floor under him cracks and he holds in a scream. The shaking stopped and Toshinori rushes out of the room. The hallways were covered in broken glass and the ceilings were cracked and pieces were hanging. Toshinori looks outside from the broken window and freezes. Pure terror shoots through him. His knees almost give out from under him. Blood shoots past his lips. The terror made him feel like a teen again, as he was thrown back and torn away from Nana, as he watches Nana point at him with blood running down her face and in her teeth, as All For One raised his hand and grinned like a hungry predator. All For One floated in the air, the skies above him darkened with black and gray clouds. His hands flowed red and black as if he was ready to strike. There was an aura and feeling in the air. It was difficult to breathe. Toshinori's breath got caught in his throat. Bloodlust and menace were in the thick intense. Toshinori flinches when he hears the crack of lightning. He looks up to the sky and found no lightning and saw no rain. There wasn't even a bright flash of lightning. All For One's hand is raised and the building shakes again. Wind picks up and hits Yue from both sides. Lightning is heard again but not seen. The electric flickers off and red lightning blinks to life. The teachers run out and yell to him. "Yagi, what's—" They all freeze when they felt the aura. He heard someone fall behind him and he had to focus on keeping his knees from falling. Toshinori pulls back from the window to avoid the broken glass from falling on top of him. He pushes the other heroes back and sees Hitoshi is on the ground. "Is that—" "Yeah." Toshinori starts to stumble down the hallway. "We need to get—" Ectoplasm is thrown through one of the walls. His back slams into some lockers. Toshinori rushes at him and tries to help him up. "Are you all right?" Ectoplasm mask is broken, and his dark eyes are seen, and some of his hair peeks through. "They have Nomu. My quirk wasn't working. We tried. The students are still—" Ectoplasm stutters out. His breaths were ragged, and he leans against Yagi. "All right, Mike, take Ectoplasm to Recovery Girl." Hitoshi takes the man without complaint. They took Sho's quirk. "Do you think—" "Probably. I don't. How many Nomu did you see?" Ectoplasm raises his head. 6. They all had red eyes. We sent Snipe to get Izuku out of there, but the villains, they surrounded the school. The south and west are on fire. The north and east—" They look out the window at All For One. "Go." Toshinori poofs into All Might and sighs. "I'll go and try and distract All For One. But if they have Aizawa's quirk, I'll have to hold in the urge to punch that bastard then and talk to him." All Might jumps through the broken window and walks in front of the school. He looks over a corner and sees no Nomu around. With that, he rushes out. "All For One!" The man barely reacts. He raises his hand. His raised hand falls beside him. "Give me Izuku and I'll give Eraserhead his quirk back." All Might shook his head. "Give Eraserhead his quirk and we'll talk about your peaceful surrender." All For One hands clench. "If we aren't going to agree, then enough talking." All Might raises his fist. Yue's barrier suddenly crumbles into chunks and Tomura Shigaraki steps through with 3 Nomu. 3 pairs of red eyes lock onto him and his fist pushes forward. "Texas!" Blood splashes out of his mouth and he poofs back. Toshinori's eyes widen and his punch did nothing. He stares at the shocked Tomura. "What the fuck?" Tomura says as he looks around. All Might is—" All For One's laughter makes Toshinori freeze. Nana's smiling face flashes over his mind. His body freezes up, and the last thing he sees is a Nomu gray hand reaching for his face. Izuku falls forward and is caught by Snipe. The blinking red lights above them made the situation a lot worse. "You all right?" Snipe questions. His hand lingered on Izuku's shoulder. Izuku smiles and nods. "Thank you." "Aizawa, your quirk makes your eyes dry out, right?" Snipe asked. They kept going and Izuku stuck closer to the gunslinger. "Yeah, but if the Nomu does really have my quirk, I don't know if he'll have the same boundaries will apply," Aizawa said from behind Izuku. He glances over his shoulder. "I don't know how well ectoplasm is doing up there with Sermentos and Vlad, but 13 and..." A scream makes them stop in the middle of the hallway. A wall crashes next to them and Snipe shoots. The Nomu screeches and the bullet bounces off its dull green skin. It's gone in a second and behind Snipe. He pushes Izuku back into Aizawa and jumps back. "Run!" Snipe screams. Izuku's body refuses to move. "We can't leave him." Aizawa grabs his arm and pulls him past the two fighting. "We got to go." Izuku yanks his arm from Aizawa and runs at the Nomu. Smash! Izuku's fist slams into the Nomu and the creature stops. Its fist is an inch from Snipe's head. "Midoriya!" Aizawa screams. The Nomu reaches for him and Izuku skids back. Aizawa's capture weapon wraps around his waist and pulls him back. "I'm going to expel you," Aizawa growls and begins dragging Izuku away. "Wait, we can't leave him." "I know, I don't like it either, but there's nothing we can do to help. My capture weapon isn't going to do much work against the Nomu, and your punch didn't do anything. We've got to go." They run through the hallways until they slam into someone else. Izuku stumbles back into Shota and is pushed behind him. "Shota!" Present Mike yells. He held ectoplasm up. He shifts and leans ectoplasm into his side some more. "What happened?" Aizawa said. "All for One is up there making a mess. All Might went out there, but they have your quirk in one of their Nomu. I don't know how long he's going to last out there." Present Mike winces at his own words. Izuku pushes past them and runs until he sees fire over the barrier and half the barrier that's crumbled into rubble. He runs until he sees the sight that makes him stop dead in his tracks. All Might hung limply in the grip of a Nomu. His head is tilted back and All for One floats above him. "Such a shame. Without One for All, you're nothing but a..." Izuku leaps out the building and runs out into the lawn. "Let him go!" Chapter 17. Izuku's fist slams into the Nomu at 100%. He does it without even thinking. The Nomu flies back and drops his mentor. The Nomu slides under All for One and past Tomura. He misses him by a few inches. Izuku doesn't cry out when he breaks his arm. He stands in front of All Might with his other fist raised. The tears in his eyes stung, but he'll get over it. All for One tilts his head. The red and black markings on his hand disappear. He slowly floats in front of Tomura. "Izuku, calm down. He's fine. He's only unconscious with a concussion." He raised his normal hand up and takes a step forward. "Don't!" Izuku screams and bares his teeth in a sneer. All for One stops. "I can see how tired you are, Izuku. You need to stop. I can fix your arm. You don't need to break anything else. Just let me..." The Nomu from before stumbles its way back beside Tomura. Green lightning pulses around Izuku and in his green eyes. "I don't care about my arm. You're hurting people. UA is falling apart from the inside and..." Izuku stops ranting and glances over his shoulder at UA. People could be hurt and stuck inside. He just left them. Izuku looks back down at All Might. If he could grab the man and run... No, that couldn't work. He needed to go back inside and protect All Might until he woke up. The boy looks back at All for One and Tomura. He glances at the Nomu in the corner of his vision. "Midoriya, come back with us and we'll leave them alone." Tomura spoke. He stood next to All for One. "You need help." Izuku smirks. "Funny, I was about to say the same thing to you." The adrenaline pumping through him made the exhaustion and stress melt away. All for One sighs. "Nomu, grab him, but don't harm him." Two of the Nomu rush at him. Izuku raises his still good arm and felt the ground shake below him. Tomura's hand was pressed against the ground, and the decay was making the ground crack. Izuku grabs All Might and jumps back onto the stairs of UA. He couldn't win this. The Nomu had red eyes. If they used Aizawa-sensei's quirk on All Might, that might be the reason he went down so quickly, but... The Nomu reaches out towards him, and his back slams into the doors. He pushes All Might through the doors and slams them shut. He slips under the Nomu at the last second, and its hand slams into the door with a crack. Izuku gulps and hopes the broken entrance won't fall on All Might. The other Nomu screeches and runs at him. The one slower than the other, but it had more muscles, and its clawed hands reached out towards him. Izuku's foot slams into the Nomu behind him, and he kicks off of it. The bigger Nomu steps on the cracks in the ground, and behind it, the ground breaks and caves in on itself. He rolls out, jumping over it, and tries to dodge. A scream makes him breathe and hesitate. He looks and sees Aizawa-sensei in one of the broken windows. Its hand catches the back of his shirt, and he pulls back. His leg rushes at its head. A hand catches his leg before it connects. Izuku looks up at All for One and twists his hips. He spins and his other leg picks up. Red eyes locked onto him and his quirk stops working. The lightning around him is gone in seconds. Aizawa screams out his name. Izuku watches as he runs through the window and towards him. Izuku raises his hand to yell at him to stop, but the Nomu grab him by the chest and he immediately tries to struggle. Aizawa's gray scarf wraps around the Nomu's head, and he pulls its head back. The Nomu hands him off to All for One and turns towards Aizawa-sensei. Izuku reaches for his teacher. Sensei! The Nomu grabs the scarf around his face and gave a sharp tug. Aizawa's boot skids into the ground. The scarf around his throat squeezes and he wheezes and pulls at it. Izuku felt hot with anger. Don't touch him! Izuku slams his fist into All for One's masked face. The mask cracks and Izuku's knuckles bleed. The top part of the mask cracks and the scarred skin is seen. All for One laughs. He throws his head back and holds Izuku close to his chest. So much anger. Are you mad at me? You took erasure! Izuku yells. He continues to try and pull away and run in front of Aizawa. Ah, you're mad about that. Hitoshi was too. All for One chuckles. The Nomu gave another tug to the gray scarf, and Aizawa is yanked towards the Nomu. The Nomu catches him by the throat and holds him up. Izuku starts to beg for a one-for-all to work again. Give it back! That's his quirk! You can't... Izuku screams. Aizawa's capture weapon flies, and All for One holds one of his arms up and allows it to wrap around him. Even while being choked, you're still trying to get Izuku back. I was right in not killing you earlier, All for One said. All for One interrupts Izuku, screaming. If I give Eraser back to him, will you willingly come with us? I really hate watching you struggle with broken limbs. Aizawa coughs and pulls on his capture weapon. Don't. Izuku nods quickly. Nomu. The Nomu next to the doorways walk over to All for One and chirps. All for One reaches out and places it on the Nomu's arm. It screeches and doesn't move. You've broken your leg and arm within the span of 3 minutes. That's got to be a new record for you. Izuku glances down at his legs and notices how bruised and purple the right one. Izuku glances down at his legs and noticed one was bruised and purple like his right arm. Of course you didn't even notice. All for One groans, and the cracked mask stares down at Izuku. Nomu. The other Nomu walks over with Aizawa. All for One reaches his hand out and places it over Aizawa's head. I've heard you've had a rather fitting nickname for Izuku. Aizawa saw nothing but white spots as he goes limp in the Nomu's grip. Nomu. The Nomu drops Aizawa and the scarf untangles and falls in a heap around him. Time to go. Izuku jolts when warm fingers touch the back of his neck. I'll transfer healing quirks, but it'll be a while before I can find one suitable for fixing bones. No, I don't want them. Izuku tries to pull away from the hands. I'm sorry, but you need these. I swear I'll take them back when I find a better one. The sharp pain in the back of his head makes his eyes flutter and his head falls onto All For One's chest. Tomura sighs when All For One lands next to him with Izuku. I thought you weren't giving Eraser back. I'll admit, I find it surprisingly very difficult to have Izuku angry at me. It's like watching you get upset. All For One huffs. Tomura snorts. Oh, I heard Hitoshi was yelling at you like Izuku was, and you didn't rush to give Eraserhead his quirk back then. Me and Hitoshi haven't bonded as yet, All For One replies with a small shrug. Tomura looks down at Izuku. He's got one hell of a temper. You saw his eyes when he saw All Might and when the Nomu went after Eraserhead? He's not becoming a villain, Tomura. Did the others set everything up? Yeah. A purple portal appears behind them. Excellent. Nomu? Now Nomu, grab All Might. Alright everyone, that is the end of chapters 16 and 17. I hope you've all enjoyed and I'll see you all soon. Bye!